I would I would turn your mic off. Just yeah. Yep. Love you guys. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
He needs a little bit of headroom.
Who needs what? Trevor needs more headroom, Ivany says.
'Cause his head's cutting off.
There we go. Beautiful. Yep.
Too much.
Ivany, too much, she says.
Wait. Right there, right there, right there. Perfect. Guys. I'm on it. Oh.
How now, brown cow? The human torch was denied. Unique, unique New York.
Oh my god.
That fire looks beautiful, Trevor, I will say. Trevor, do you want to see my Trevor, do you want to see Trevor, do you want to see my bulging actor vein that every actor does when they're like intense? Not playing around, Trevor. Not playing around. How was that?
Oh, bar 3 piece.
Because I think it's
Chad's doing that one.
tired of hearing these people say what I'm saying. You're all cut off. Yes, sir. I am ready. Oh, you're ready. Hmm, hmm. Hmm. No. Mm. Jay has never had a whiskey Sunday start on time, so I've had 3. You too, you too. Hand dips. Ooh, little sample that under their hand bottled. Ooh, they call this one a slam dunk. Slam dunk. Oh, don't worry, everybody. She's been promoted. I would say I'm answering questions, but I my phone is sideways, so I can't really read sideways, to be honest. Hope everybody's doing well. I see some words in Spanish. I don't understand Spanish. Um, but translator standing by. 3, this will be my 3rd glass. Awesome. 'Hot night. I told you there would be technical. feel like people are looking at me on my camera, but I'm not really sure. Oh, that's much better. I can actually read those things now. Hello, everybody. So what my kitchen looks like to everybody on. There you go. Very nice. Hello. Cheers, Trevor. It's true. 7 grand space SD. Tune on to YouTube, where you'll see both of our beautiful faces. Mm, no, I wouldn't believe that for 1 second. Mm, no, I did not. That's a funny joke, Trevor. Keep them coming. Hannah. Ooh, that's embarrassing. Embarrassing. Mm. All right. Thank you for clarifying that, Trevor, because it sounded like you were being a little judgmental there because we were about to go on network. And once we do go live, I will be completely professional. Unfortunately, I've been quarantined for 4 days now and I'm fucking losing my mind. Sorry for the profanity, everybody, but
Up. Thanks for joining on. Johnny Ramos, what's going on? I love your eyes too. If you guys are looking at the YouTube channel, we have Josh was fixing his mustache, still is. We're getting real close. But still 2 minutes out. If you aren't on the YouTube channel yet, we do have Josh is currently doing stretches. Oh, view. Okay. Looks like we're adding a couple live videos on here. Dig that. Gary, thanks for joining us. Gary, if you guys, Gary, if you can respond on there, is Collins and Coop, is that going to be open tomorrow? All right, all right. Waiting for that. We're about a minute out. If you want to jump on the YouTube channel, you're going to be able to see Josh and I. Not currently Josh because he's stretching, He's in the background right now. Again, that's going to be 7 grand space SD. You can search that on the YouTube channel. You can find that. What? We have Josh Carlos. You want to give a shout out to Camp June. So that's June and Jolie and Campfire teaming up and doing amazing meals. He said that their family meal tonight was absolutely amazing. They needed some whiskey though. So again, this is great if you're going to be on the Instagram channel, but if you want to go to the YouTube of 7 grand SD, you're going to go see Josh's face as well.
Did you catch that? Did
No.
you see my notes?
No.
If you guys talk at the same time, you cut the other person out.
Got it.
So you guys can only talk one at a time. Let Josh know.
Okay.
Because Josh can hear you, but it cuts out on the YouTube channel.
Perfect.
And obviously live goes back and forth with that.
Yep.
I was wondering
Hey, Josh, we are live and you're currently bent over looking for more whiskey.
See, pay attention to this little corner right up here, because that's me telling you guys things.
So we're good. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, you're live on YouTube. Facebook just went live. We're live across the board everywhere.
Wow.
Pretty much all of Los Angeles is watching you guys right now, plus half of the team.
Hey guys, Collins and Coop is going to be making deliveries, but if you want to contact directly, they can do that. Josh can't handle. Again, he's on his third drink. Is it third or four? How many? Oh, always stay at 3 drinks during quarantine. Are we, Chad? Are we?
I don't. 100%, Matt. We are handling it as we speak. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another glorious Whiskey Society. Your host, Josh Judd, here tonight. Unfortunately, we are not at 7 grand. We are in my living room next to my glorious whiskey cabinet and my beautiful mini bookshelf that I've created for this event. We're not going to talk about COVID-19 tonight because obviously you've heard quite too much about that, I imagine. We're going to talk about whiskey. And joining us tonight, we have Mr. Trevor Bowles of Maker's Mark, which I'm extremely excited about. But if you haven't already, and you have the opportunity to, please donate to our GoFundMe page. I would like to say thank you to everybody who has donated already. It's going to be a huge help to everybody, including my staff. But for now, let's talk about whiskey. And welcome, Trevor Bowles. So a warm round.
Yeah, I mean, so most of the time I usually start off my educations with a little song. It kind of feels right to just kind of dive in and say that you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your whiskey friend said, that you got a friend in me. was a B flat, but I appreciate you bringing that up. So with this, so the story of Maker's Mark actually starts in a really unique way. That it came from a place of not loving this complacency. The owners and founders of Maker's Mark were Bill and Margie Samuels. And they had this idea. They already owned a family distillery. They were in their late 30s, and they decided to essentially burn the family recipe and start their own thing. I think that we can look back and say that a lot of that is kind of going on today, right? We're going to have to kind of burn this recipe of how we normally do things and be able to move on from this. So thank you again for joining. If you have any questions, I want you to be able to throw these in. We're going to talk a little bit about mash bills. We're going to talk a little bit about our water source. And then again, if you have any questions, please throw this in too. So we had Mission Trails Liquor join in. Thank you so much. Kevin, what's going on? Phil, to have you on. So when we talk about what Makers is made out of, right? So if we kind of start with like our raw ingredients, it's going to be done with corn. You have red winter wheat, and then also malted barley. So the red winter wheat is something that makes it incredibly special and unique. It's going to give it a nice, real full flavor. And that's kind of like our ingredients that we're going to be able to start with that's on this. Josh, anything that you want to throw in so far? Thing that we usually make a mistake when we do these whiskey societies is that we start talking too much before we say, hey, go ahead and dive into your first sample. So I'm going to take a second. If you do have a glass and if you've poured yourself some whiskey, glass is up. Here's a Josh again. Here's a 7 grand. Here's to every single person that's watching and tuning in right now. I think we need to be more together than ever in our time. So cheers. We're really thrilled to have you. Definitely feel free to say what you're drinking on this. I'm currently drinking the Makers 101. It's only available in a travel retail pack, but it's also available for a limited time at the distillery. So I have our dear friend, someone needs alcohol, which I appreciate that. Lucy from Sipsmith, which is also with the Beam Centauri group. She is currently drinking Sipsmith. I think that's a lie. I'm pretty sure that she's actually going to be drinking Maker's Mark, maybe doing a 50-50 blend. So kind of going into that, we talked about our ingredients for Maker's Mark. Another really thing that makes our distillery incredibly unique is going to be the people. So hopefully we have a couple of people from the distillery that are logging on and watching this. On behalf of myself, and again, on behalf of the 200 people that are at the distillery, we really just wanted to reach out and say thank you again for logging in and just kind of having this. Lucy wanted us to know that she didn't get her employee shipment. I'm sorry, Lucy. Again, so hopefully you can buy some Sipsmith or continue to just buy that Maker's Mark. Josh, anything else that you need to throw in?
You to kind of give us a walkthrough of why Maker's Mark is so special. For example, the first few times I ever went to the distillery, I was blown away with when the bus pulled up and you get out the bus and there's this old school house. There's a creek running right through where the parking lot is. What makes it so special, that location?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you couldn't hear that, Josh just asked what makes that Maker's Mark distillery so incredibly special, and you pull up. One thing I have to say is that Margie Samuels. So when Bill and Margie first started Makers and they were original founders, Bill was in charge of the recipe, right, and developing that. Margie Samuels, his wife, said, for every dollar that you spend in making this, you have to give me $1 so I can put this back into the distillery. She's the one that founded bourbon tourism. So if you go to Makers, it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And a lot of that is going to be because of Margie Samuels. So when you go there, you have the shutters are painted red. You have the buildings are painted, they look black if you've seen photos, but they're actually really, really dark brown. And it's a lot because of that, right? So you go in, the grounds are absolutely pristine. The grass is perfect. One of my favorite things about the distillery, one of the many things, is going to be that we actually use solar paneled lawnmowers that go around. So again, we're really, really caring about that energy. Another reason that we chose that specific space at the distillery is going to be our water source. So if you go to the distillery and just past the tree line, we're actually going to have this lake, and we actually use that water to make Maker's Mark. So we're not pulling from any of the city water to actually do that. What we're doing is we're pulling from to be able to create that, and that's what's incredible about it, is that it's coming truly from the source. Sorry, hold on. We have a message on here. If you're watching this, don't text me on the side. All right, cool. We're back. So again, we were talking about say it again.
Trevor, you were touching on the fact that you're very environmentally friendly. That's something I read about in one of my many whiskey magazines that I read. And it was talking about all the environmentally friendly whiskey distilleries around America that are kind of trying to chip their way in, be sustainable, be a part of the environment. And you mentioned that you have solar panel lawnmowers. Is there anything else that you guys do that makes you guys environmentally friendly?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if you heard Josh. Josh just asked and said, what else makes Maker's Mark environmentally friendly? Obviously, with a lot of us in California and just with a focus on that too, there is no single-use plastic allowed at the distillery. So every single employee actually has a reusable Nalgene bottle that you get, and you're only supposed to be able to use that. So otherwise, you're usually written up if you actually have single-use plastic at the distillery. Another thing that's going to make us incredibly unique is going to be Jason Nally. So hopefully we can send this to Jason Nally. Jason is our environmental specialist that actually lives and basically just down the street from the distillery, and he grew up down the street from the distillery, and everything that he does from our water source and also to kind of show what we do at the distillery, and then bringing in different farmers to show sustainable ways of planting and also with forestry.
I just received a question from Tavi Nation asking if there is a must-visit distillery as far as distilleries in Kentucky go. And I'm not even joking when I answer this as Maker's Mark. I say this to my guests over and over and over again as they've come into 7 Grand. Maker's Mark is one of my all-time favorite distilleries. And if I was going to choose another distillery to visit for absolute just the overall aura of the distillery, it would probably be Wild Turkey. I just love some Wild Turkey. I'm a huge fan of Wild Turkey. Regardless of their visitor center, I just really enjoy that bridge because I daydream about bungee jumping off it one day.
So one of the questions that came through was, if you could go to any other distillery, he obviously said that Maker's Mark was one of his favorites to visit, but what else would you go to? And I think that's something that's really important is that we're here and we're getting together and we're talking about whiskey. So right now you're getting off of Netflix, you're getting off of your full of things, and we're kind of engaging and we're doing this. So a lot of the times I don't think it necessarily matters what's in your glass, right? I mean, we've been doing this and we've been cheersing for centuries, right? So it's the thing that it's not necessarily Maker's Mark coming together. It's not necessarily 7 Grand. It's more about pouring something in your cup. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but I think it's bringing people together, especially in this kind of time. Would you agree with that, Josh?
100%.
So I'm going to kind of detour real fast and share a little story about bringing people together and just being able to connect. The first time that I met Josh, I was managing Neighborhood, and we were about to tap Planet the Younger, and he's blushing. So the whole idea was this: is that we're really excited. I knew that Josh worked in the industry, and he came in. He was about to leave. He asked to close out his tab, and I said, "Hey man, hold on just a little bit, and we're going to tap something really special. I want you to be able to try that." So he hung around, and I honestly forgot about this and that happened, that we kind of shared this moment. And then it was years later when I was presenting at 7 Grand, Josh was like, "You want to know why I've always remembered you? Is because you did something extra and you kind of took care of me in a certain hospitality way." So again, I think in these moments, we need more things that are like that. I'm going to reach out to Juanette. I don't know, Juanette, if you're watching this. She reached out. She said, "Thank you for Makers and that we're donating a lot of meals currently. If you haven't signed on yet, you can go onto my Instagram bio. We're going to be hosting meals at Underbelly North Park tomorrow. So you can click on that. You can log in." She reached out. I just want to say thank you to Juanette. And she was like, "Hey, do you need anything?" She's like, "Do you need any toilet paper? Do you need anything?" And I just thought that was a really incredible thing for people to reach out and continue to see what we need. So just really continue to be there for each other,
To be completely honest with everybody, Chad and I got in a full-blown argument with each other, which was very exciting, but not in an angry way, not in a way where it's I don't like you, you don't like me. It was more of we have no idea what to do, so we kind of had to check each other on a friend relationship level, and that was really nice to see that Chad is always there for me. And you know what I mean? It's obviously 7 Grand's been our baby for going on 8 years now, and it was really nice to see us come together, solve the problems, and it was fun to get in an argument with someone you usually don't get in an argument with. So if I could thank COVID-19 for anything, one more argument with me and Chad. Yes, it is worth it. It is 100% worth it.
Trail worth visiting. I was just there this past weekend. Absolutely, it is the beverage of America, right? So being able to go there and seeing the kind of community that's created around that, I love that. When we go to Buffalo Trace or if we go visit our friends at Wild Turkey, it really is like going to visit your friends and visit your neighbors. And there's something incredible about that, right? And so I would say that in the spirit of Kentucky and in the spirit of the Bourbon Trail, make sure to call your neighbors, right? Make sure to reach out to the ones that you love and that you're thinking of, and maybe even just pour something out. If you haven't FaceTimed with your coworkers, I know that, it's really unfortunate that a lot of us are out of work right now, right? That there's a lot of our community and our hospitality industry that's out of work. And if you haven't reached out to your neighbors, I would say pull a tip, from the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and reach out to your neighbors down the way.
Trevor, I appreciate everything you're saying. It's good to see you via internet. Chad just sent me a little message on my sidebar here and said, Josh, everyone wants to see your corn tattoo. So I will show everybody my corn tattoo for $1. If somebody donates $1 to our GoFundMe account at 7 Grand San Diego, you get to see my corn tattoo. While I am taking off my jacket, Trevor, can you dive into what your favorite Maker's Mark is? What's your favorite bottle? My personal favorite is the RC6 or the 7 Grand Winter Edition.
I love that. So nice. So in case you haven't known, again, Josh said that you can actually donate to the staff at 7 Grand. He is going to currently strip and he's going to be taking off some clothes. You can go see them at their YouTube channel. That's going to be 7 Grand SD. So definitely check that out as he's showing his corn.
No, not at all. You want me to? That's about all I got.
Maker's Mark expression is, there was a moment that I went with Matt Diaz, who's probably on the line right now too, and it was really, really cold. It was snowing outside. We went into one of the warehouses and we opened up a barrel. And the way that a warehouse smells, for me, it's kind of a weird memory, but it's almost like vanilla frosting. It's such a weird thing, these aromas that pull you into places. And it's very cold, and we open up this barrel, and the liquid inside the barrel is extremely cold as well. And we put the thief in. It's basically like a giant straw, and we pull some, and we're able to drink directly from the barrel. That's one of my favorite moments, because even on that trip, we were with some people that were very upfront, that were like, I'm a tequila person. I don't really drink bourbon. And everyone said that this was their favorite bourbon they've ever had in their life. And it was cool to look around a room of people that were all freezing. Some people didn't even want to be there. And all of a sudden, that was the moment that they realized, like, wow, this is something incredibly delicious. So in that moment, that was probably my favorite Maker's Mark. If I'm drinking at home, it's got to be 46.
I recommended some friends. Shout out to my good friend Shadow Van Houten, who picked up a bottle of Maker's 46 today. Good job, Shadow.
Nice. We did just have Johnny the Scot join. So being here, we really appreciate you. Johnny, I don't know if you've heard of him before. Johnny the Scot.
Johnny, thanks for joining us.
They didn't know that there was internet in Scotland, but we're really, really happy that you're here. We're thrilled. Dive into. Josh, do we have anything else?
Maker's Mark chooses to be so different than everybody else and just use some rye. Because my personal experience, some of my favorite whiskeys use rye. But why so different?
Yeah, for sure. So that was a good thing. So Josh was asking, why does Maker's Mark not use rye in their mash bill? If you are not familiar with a mash bill, it's essentially the recipe, right? So Maker's is going to be 70% corn, 16% of this delicious red winter wheat, and then you're also going to have 14% of malted barley. So the reason that we're using red winter wheat instead is going to be because we wanted something that was full of flavor. Maker's Mark is based on a flavor vision. So I know a lot of my friends are currently baking at home, which I'm loving seeing. They're going through their books. They know they're on quarantine, and they're basically saying, hey, we're going to just bake at home. A lot of them are using that red winter wheat. The reason that you're going to want to do that is that it adds this really beautiful sweetness to it. A lot of bakers in Kentucky would use red winter wheat. So that was kind of when they saw and they said, oh, if all these bakers are using this, let's maybe take this recipe and then recreate it, essentially making a bread recipe, but then distilling it. Great question, Josh. Seeing anybody else? Is there any other questions that were thrown in there? I know Faisal jumped on. Thanks, man. It was good seeing you. Thanks for the high five on there.
I have a question. Kendasada. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I have a question. I'm allergic to corn. Is that used in Maker's Mark? And if so, is it phased out at the end of the distillery process? Sorry if this is a lame question, but I love a good rye bourbon.
I had someone that reached out and basically said that they were allergic to corn. And then that's the reason why, Josh, I love that, by the way. Dono's gone over there. So they're saying that they are allergic to corn. Actually never heard that. So someone just came on and said that they've never really tried Maker's Mark or bourbon, and that they only drink 100% rye because they're allergic to corn. I see that there's
YouTube, yes.
okay. I also just got a note that YouTube went down.
Oh,
Oh,
that would be a bummer.
that would be a bummer. So again, if we just had YouTube down, someone just asked if you were that person that made that comment. Please let us know. Again, we're having a couple people said that the YouTube. Oh, and then it's back. YouTube's back. Fantastic. Again, if you've heard that before, if you are allergic to corn, can you drink bourbon? Josh, do you know the answer to that?
I have not heard anything. From my understanding, I would depend on the molecular compound that you're allergic to. So
yeah. It sounds like we're going to have to drink and do some research and get back to you next Friday.
Based off the question where you said you're good with rye bourbons, rye is still going to have a good percentage of corn in there. So I would say that, I don't know, we'll have to do some research and find out. But I have plenty of time to do research. So
plenty of time to do research. Fantastic. Is there any other questions that are coming through on your side?
So I have a question asking, whatever happened to the Maker's Mark with the gold wax, dude?
Whew. Actually, so last time that I saw a gold wax edition, that was going to be in 1999. Sometimes they'll do special bottlings of gold wax edition. So currently, I'm not seeing that there's any necessarily on the market. I know that there's a couple that are like on black market retail. I would maybe check those out. But I haven't seen a gold wax available for purchase at the distillery or at any liquor stores around here. So it was a special edition that we only released. The last time I saw a bottling was in 1999, but maybe that'd be something cool to get back out. I think Chad is saying that gluten's fine.
I mean,
Chad's also not a doctor, so let's not take his medical advice.
he does have gluten problems, though. That's for sure.
You have another question?
So from one of my resident buddies, we'll quote him as Jay Stapleton. Should be good as the proteins that most people are allergic to get distilled out, but it's made in a distillery with a lot of grain lying around, so it might not be completely clean.
I love that. Again, from Jay Stapleton. Hey, can we give it up for Chad that's coming in here real fast? Please, thank you for having us.
For sure. I'll get out of here.
Marty asks, what is your favorite cocktail or cocktails to make with Maker's Mark?
Ooh, great question. So I've been drinking a lot of Maker's Mark and Topo Chico at home recently. I was telling somebody earlier that I have an embarrassing home bar. So a lot of people would love to come over and they're just very excited to be able to have some Maker's Mark cocktails. It's not really going to happen at my house. We're going to be drinking a lot of neat spirits or Maker's Mark with Topo Chico. One of my favorites, if I can, I'll give a shout out to the staff at Noble Experiment. A cocktail that they do is a variation of a Filthy Rich. So it's going to be a full ounce of Maker's. It's going to be also a full ounce of Sherry Amontillado. And then you're going to have a half ounce of Benedictine and a half ounce of Chinar. It is going to be a stirred cocktail and it's going to be served up.
Sounds
so
good.
Yeah, it's great. I would say probably my second favorite Maker's Mark cocktail is anyone that Josh puts in my hand when I'm at $7 grand after 10 p.m. on a Friday.
Sounds delicious. Thanks for that answer, Trevor. I would always go with the $7 grand handmade old fashioned. Just down the street at 3054 University Avenue.
Wow.
And as soon as we open, we'll make one of those for you. Boop, boop, boop. Real quick.
Josh, are you guys, are we doing anything else besides talking about whiskey? Are we here to promote something as well, or?
Yeah, we're here to talk about our GoFundMe page, which is going to be dedicating all of the proceeds to our staff, which is currently out of a job. So we're trying to raise as much money as we can to work through this storm. So any donations you're able to make are greatly appreciated.
Yeah. So again, guys, we're doing this as kind of a fundraiser. So we're hoping to raise money for the staff of $7 grand. Like the staff of $7 grand, majority of them were all let go, like a lot of our industry people. So we're trying to figure out creative ways to basically come together as a community, the same way that we would do if it was Friday night at $7 grand and I was presenting there and we were in a room full of people. So that same way we want to be able to bring community together. Yes, sir.
I have a question for you, Trevor. I have a good friend named Zach Bryan who wants to know if he's able to jump into the pond at the Maker's Mark Distillery.
That's a great question. Depending on who's on this call, no, you were not allowed to jump into the pond at the Maker's Mark Distillery. Technically, it's going to be called a lake.
Sorry, Zach. You're not allowed to jump into the lake, but thanks for asking.
I appreciate it.
Fun questions out there?
Strong question. If you want, there is the staff of the Maker's Mark Distillery is allowed to fish in the lake during certain times of year. So
if you dress up like a fish, you're in.
I don't know if that was the thing. I think he needs to get a job at the Maker's Mark Distillery.
Oh, cool. You got to get a job, Zach.
See.
All right. I got another request, Trevor, if you have the knowledge inside that noggin. Let's talk about wood. I know Maker's Mark prides themselves on rotating their barrels around the warehouse.
Yeah.
Which no other distillery that, to my knowledge, does. I know that you guys do the 46 program. I know that our private selection program is extremely intense in terms of the woods that are involved. Maybe you could go on a little tangent on why wood is so important to Maker's Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So the question that we got, in case if you're not on the YouTube channel, is that why is wood important to Maker's Mark? Something that Josh alluded to is rotating barrels. So Maker's Mark is incredibly unique in the way that we're one of the only distilleries of our size that we actually hand rotate our barrels. At most distilleries, you're going to fill your barrel with bourbon, and then you basically go, hold on here. All right, we're back. So you're going to be able to fill your barrel up, and then you're going to be able to put it into the warehouse, and it's going to live there that its entire life before we empty that barrel out. At Maker's Mark, we put all of our new barrels at the top of the warehouse. There's 7-story warehouses, and we fill up the first 3 floors with barrels for consistency. At Maker's Mark, we only make an aged Maker's Mark. When we take things out of the barrel, that's where things change, whether it's 46 or whether it's cast strength whether it's 101 or just classic makers, it's all going to be going into the barrel as makers. So we have our barrels in the top 3 floors of the warehouse. And after 3 years, we rotate them down to the bottom floors for consistency. A lot of other distilleries, what they're going to do is that they're going to pull from different parts of the warehouse after aging, and then they're going to blend them together to create a consistent flavor. At makers, say that we're very purposely inefficient. And that's actually people that are pulling the barrels from the top of the warehouse and then rotating them down to the bottom floors. But I think that was a great question.
Thanks.
We have someone else that was going to be coming through here that said, I'm not going to answer Katie's question. Oh, we had this. This is great. It was asking, are we selling cocktails to go? 7 Grand currently is not selling cocktails to go yet. But if we have a couple friends that are on here, and if you're watching this, and if your bar is selling cocktails to go, please throw up a hand. Please let us know that you are. I know a couple ones. Go ahead, Josh.
Share, the greatest restaurant in San Diego, Lion Share, in my opinion. So,
Lion Share, so Lion Share is selling cocktails to go. We have Fernside that's selling cocktails to go as well. Let's see, go down to the bottom, see what other ones we have. Fernside, perfect. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate you.
yes, Burnside, get some.
Get some. We have that Pacers is actually selling cocktails to go. I didn't know that. Josh, did you know that?
I'll be right back. I'll see you guys in a second.
Classic. How was your trip? How was your trip to Pacers?
Oh, it was glorious. I actually didn't make it there. There's rain. Can't walk out in the rain.
It's raining. So again, guys, we're probably going to wrap this up in a little bit. I just want to be able to reach out and say, if you have any questions, be sure to throw them in now. If you are on this and you do have a bar that is doing cocktails to go, please throw this on. Caesar said that Caesar's Palace currently at his house is serving cocktails to go. That is someone that I would trust. Coin Op and Gaslamp is also doing cocktails to go. Thank you so much, Katie Mitchell. We also have Metal downtown. That would be incredible. Go down there, have a cocktail to go. I just ordered food on Uber Eats from them. It was amazing. Pacific Coast Spirits is offering draft cocktails to go.
Ooh, very nice. So I had a question. I had another gentleman that was reveling in the idea of swimming in your water source. What is your water source at Maker's Mark?
Yeah, so our water source is going to come from a limestone filtered lake that is going to be on the grounds. Maker's Mark, the distillery itself, is 1,000 acres. So 1,000 acres of land, and we have 2 lake sources, one that we use for making, one that's going to be a back source. Seeing the projection of growth of Makers, we knew that we wanted to have a second water source, but we also own the watershed around it. So when some distilleries say that they own their water source, they maybe don't own the watershed, meaning that, I don't know a better way to say it than that shit rolls downhill. So if you own your lake or your water source, but you don't own the farm that's next to it with the cows or the chickens or whatever else is going to be in Kentucky around that, that's going to be able to roll down and be in your water source. So in Maker's Mark, it was incredibly important for us to be able to also own the entire land that was going to be around that, being able to keep our watershed safe. Josh, you have a question coming in?
I have another question. RC6 seemingly got good reviews from the public and good reviews from me because I love that whiskey. Is there a plan to continue? Any plan on a 2020 release?
That's a great question. So in case you're not familiar, Josh was asking about RC6. RC6 was something that we were very, very excited about. It was part of innovation. Makers doesn't really come up with a lot of limited releases. So it was the first limited release that Makers ever came out with. Again, this was called RC6. What it was that we took an entire full barrel of Maker's Mark, emptied it out, cracked it open. We added 10 pieces of wood. You can call them staves, but they look like 2x4s. And because of the way that they were cooked, Josh, do you like steak?
I love steak, Trevor.
Perfect. So if you cook a steak in a different way, whether you sear it or whether you bake it, the fat's going to react in a different way and it's going to pull a different flavor. Wood reacts the exact same way. So if you sear wood, if you bake wood, or if you put it and you char it under high heat, it's going to create different flavors. So RC6 was going to be 10 pieces of American oak that were going to be baked at a temperature and then put into that barrel. And then what it did is that it downplayed the traditional notes of caramel and vanilla and allowed the fruit ester notes from our yeast strand to really shine through. If that sounds nerdy, it's because it really is. but it was something that we want to be able to give out to our community and say, hey, if you want to nerd out on whiskey, this is for you. But if you just want to drink something delicious that has incredible fruit notes, I know a couple of my friends said, man, I really taste the pineapple in this, which I thought was incredible. Josh's second question, are we going to do something like that again? We are going to do a wood finishing series coming up later in the fall. What that's going to be, I got a note from Jane Bowie, who is amazing. She's our head of innovation at the distillery. I got a note from her today that I just got samples shipped to my house, which I am running out of whiskey at my house, so I'm very excited about that, to taste the new release that's going to be coming out in the fall, so we can try to be able to have that. We have also on mine, we are with my phone is probably going to die in a little bit. So if this does die, we are going to leave. Matt, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for saying hi. Appreciate you. Jade, what's going on? We're thrilled to have you. Josh, did you have another question come through?
The only other question I have is, if you had a preference, would you drink Maker's Mark in an old fashioned, or would you have it neat?
I'm sorry, say that again.
If you had a preference, would you choose to drink Maker's Mark in an old fashioned, or would you rather have it neat?
It's a good question. Would I rather drink Maker's Mark as an old fashioned or neat? I would rather drink it neat. Definitely a big fan of neat. We did have one question that came through that somebody said on here that was, why is the water source important? So when we talk about water source in Kentucky, Kentucky sits on a limestone shelf. What the heck does that mean? Essentially, you have water that's being filtered through limestone. You're taking out the iron that's naturally in water, and you're actually making it calcium rich. So that's incredible. It's another reason why the racehorses in Kentucky are so great. They're drinking that limestone water, and they're building up their calcium intake to be able to hold more of a muscle and bone structure. It's also delicious in whiskey. So the reason you're going to have a higher calcium, you're going to have a lower iron, and you're going to basically create a hotbed where all of that yeast and fermentation and our corn and our red winter wheat and our barley are really going to be able to thrive in that.
Not a question, just a statement.
Yep.
You look really nice next to that fireplace right now.
Wow. Josh, I think that you look incredible. I was really hoping that the camera, you've always been a slender man, and I was hoping the camera would add 10 pounds to you so you would look more like me, but you still look just as handsome as ever.
That's why when it gets windy outside, I always stay indoors because I'll get blown away.
So again, we wanted to reach out and basically say thank you again for logging on and being able to see this. We really appreciate this. If this is something that you want to see us do again, we're happy to. We're honestly sitting around a fireplace and we're drinking whiskey, and hopefully we're able to log on and you were able to drink a little bit of whiskey as well. I want to give a huge thanks to every single person that logged on. I want to give a massive thank you to anyone that already donated to $7,000. Josh, I'm going to let you kind of take it away and say any additional notes on kind of the donation and fundraising you're doing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight as well. And I do appreciate your viewership. I have no idea what I look like. I'm usually used to people laughing at my jokes, but I'm in a silent room because my girlfriend over here, she never laughs at my jokes. So silent as always. So hopefully we were funny tonight and we made you laugh. If we were, please donate to our fund, GoFundMe, $7,000 San Diego.
I will say that I'm seeing the notes that Chad's putting up right now. This fundraiser with a goal of $5,000. In this moment, we've already raised almost $3,400 in this time. So obviously people are out there.
30.
What?
38.30.
Sorry, 38.30 at this time. So again, we started at zero. We had a goal of 5,000. The fact that people are jumping on this and donating to stop at $7,000, I think is incredible. So thank you for that.
We're 1,200 away from our goal. Obviously, these funds are going to help us out. Like, we went to work on Friday, totally expecting to have a job on Monday. Not having a job on Monday, kind of scary to everybody that I work with. So thanks for your help. Everything you've donated is definitely going to help us out and get us through this storm. So thank you again. If you guys enjoyed and really do want to tune in next week, I guarantee I'll make this happen again and hopefully be better at setting everything up because this is very confusing to me. So,
and hey, we are seeing that someone is asking where to donate. If you are not on the YouTube, you can actually donate. If you go to the GoFundMe, that's going to be $7,000 San Diego. So if you go to GoFundMe and search that, that's going to be on there. Seth, great question. So again, GoFundMe, $7,000 San Diego if you're not on the YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you guys. Cheers and stay safe out there.
I miss you, Trevor.
I miss you too. I miss you guys too. What's going on?
Cheers.